Hi, welcome to the video tutorial for the lesson called Ladders and Slides. It's a lesson in the ratio strand, and it's one that actually there isn't much to it, but the pupils really enjoy it. And I think it's lovely just to give them the chance to talk about what they see, to talk about what they say, to look for patterns. But you're there to challenge them and to steer them. So I would start this lesson by talking about going to a water park and children being scared at the different colours of rides, or even going skiing, depending if your pupils are being skiing, to get this idea of slope. Because it is about, you are looking at ratios and gradients of lines. And so the lesson starts with a puzzle. And what you do is you show something for 2 seconds and the pupils have to talk about it. So I'll just show you. I would, and I put the grid lines on here just because I'm a bit messy, but I would show this for less than 2 seconds. Hide it again and say to the pupils, tell the person next to you, what have you seen? Can you tell me exactly what's up there? And if they want to see it again, they'll say, okay, I'm going to show it to you again. Okay, off you go. Off you go. And give them 5 minutes to do that, pairs to fours, however you want to do it. And then each group can feed back and you can write on the board what they tell you. And to be honest, sometimes it's incredible how accurate some of the pupils are. And so after that can take up to 10, 12 minutes. You show the pupils this and they start filling it in. Right? We've deliberately done it from low to high for the idea of ascending. For how you want pupils to visualise things later on. We've put A, B, C, D up there because the pupils want to come up with better names for each of the columns. And so the pupils would then fill this in. Well, that's 6, that's 10, that's 12, that's 16, 18, 20, so on. And so what they do is they would name each of these and say, well, that's the 2 times table. That's the 6 times table. That's the 3s. That's the 9s. And so a lot of their focus is on this ascending order and spotting patterns in here and filling it in. And look, so okay, how could you describe how to get from say A to B, or A to C, or A to D, or C to D, or B to C? In your groups, how would you, because you know we did that Twigs and Leaves lesson, the gardens lesson, you came up with some great formula. What formula can you use to describe the links between the numbers? And this is lovely. I mean, I used to love it when pupils could write on acetates and share it, and share the fact that they think, this is times by 3. So they can say 3A equals B, or B divided by 3 equals A, and all sorts of variations like that, and let them all share. So nobody's wrong, they've all spotted patterns. What's interesting is often they will not share the pattern that is going from 2 to 9, or 2 to 3, or even 6 to 9. You're forcing them here to think in terms of multiplicative relationships, and to think that actually that to that is times by 1.5. So 1.5A equals B. That often takes a while because they find it very difficult to think in terms of ratio, in terms of fractions, or less than, or more than 1, or more than 2. So this can often take 40 minutes, half an hour, depending on what the pupils give to it. But the focus is on, we can, for all of them, have multiplicative links across the table. Then we move on to the next activity. And this is where the relation to the slides comes in. Now, in the original, the pupils are given this sheet, and all they've got to do is put the numbers in. So you've got 3 slides, the red slide, black slide, blue slide, or red slide, blue slide, black slide, or the infant, junior, senior slide. Each slide is more steep than the other. What I like about this is this sense that the lines are getting further apart, but the ratio is the same. I think that's important for pupils to visualise, that these lines are getting further apart, but the relationship between them is staying the same. I think it's worth actually giving the pupils this information and actually getting them to draw the lines themselves and start to look for relationships between the lines, and how do you explore them mathematically? Again, using fractions of ratios. But what is the same is, however far across you get, you can actually predict what the number is going to be because the relationship is fixed. I think that's a really important drawing task where the pupils are getting a sense of the lines are getting further apart, but they're further apart by a fixed amount. The gap is the same. What do you mean the gap's the same? Oh, the gap is bigger there, but actually the gap from there to there, if you double that, you still double that. You say, well, at 3, oh, that one's 3, that one's, oh, that's interesting, that one's 7. So you're actually getting them to explore the relationships between the numbers. And again, some of them are simple ratios, others involve fractions. And there is, at the end of the lesson, there's an interesting activity where if they know this value here, if this one's 4, and they know this one is, say, 20, they can predict the height of the tree. So you're actually applying it to a standard exam type question right at the end of the lesson, and just give them that and just get them to say, how can we work out how high the tree is? And that's a really useful way of ending this lesson in thinking about ratio, multiplicative relationships between numbers.